The nonprofit MBA purpose is to provide new business insights and fresh creative ideas for executive directors and their teams that will help them improve their organization. Here is your host, Stephen Halasnik.
Welcome, everyone. My name is Stephen Halasnik, and I will be your host for today's Nonprofit MBA podcast. I am co-founder of Financing Solutions. And for those of you who don't know us, we are the leading provider in the United States of lines of credit to small nonprofits. Our line of credit program is just really a good thing for many nonprofits to get in place as a cash backup plan. And if you're interested, please visit. If you're interested in learning, please visit us at nonprofitmbapodcast.com. Today, I am very excited to be speaking with Roland Bakornik from Chameleon.io. And today's topic, which I think is going to be a great topic, I love it when I get to pick these topics that I think that our listeners are really going to like and love and learn. Today's topic is email marketing and design best practices for nonprofits. Roland is the CEO and co-founder of Chameleon.io, an email creation platform that has been working with a lot of nonprofits to make sure that their email messaging is effective. He's a seasoned email marketer specializing in email design and email accessibility. He regularly shares his views on his website, the Chameleon website blog, in major communities and also online and offline email related events. Roland, welcome to today's Nonprofit MBA podcast.
Hi, Stephen. Hey, everybody. Thanks for having me.
Have you noticed a difference between how nonprofits do email marketing versus a business?
I think there are a few differences. I think maybe the most visible for somebody who is not neck deep into email marketing is that the emails that I see from nonprofits are typically more text heavy. So the storytelling part is really strong. Of course, that's how you can make people move, or that's how people just can resonate with something, a new topic. I'm not saying that nonprofits generally need to deal with, people who have some sort of health issues, but many nonprofits do. But there are so many others which deal with animal welfare or anything like that. And these topics, I think, work best with a really strong storytelling. So the storyline is even more important than I think anywhere else. Because, if you get a newsletter from Walmart, there's no story in there, and it's not something that you would be interested in. That would feel like just another marketing whatnot that's in the email, but there's no real story. And
so do you find that you often have to take the content that the nonprofit gives you and really slim it down because often, the nonprofit executive director who's ever running email campaigns are so passionate about their subject matter, they could talk and talk and talk and talk because they really care and they know a lot about it. Is that accurate to say?
Yeah, I think it's we as a provider, we help with the email creation. So we don't necessarily get involved in, producing the actual email. We provide the nonprofits with a visual email builder that helps them create something nice. But the storytelling part is on them. What I see and what I hear as a feedback from those nonprofits that we work with is that they do this editorial work in-house. So there are selected number of people in the team who either have some sort of PR background or, some sort of journalistic vein at least. So they are the ones who create something consumable and interesting from a 3-page text, narrow it down to a half-page text, maybe in an email. So that's something that's a really important skill, and even more important for nonprofits. It's similarly as important as for publishers to make something interesting.
So give me give me your top three biggest mistakes that you see that people make in email marketing.
I think if should I narrow it down to nonprofits or should I make it more general?
Let's do it nonprofits.
Yeah, I think what's challenging for nonprofits is, and that's a more general thing. So it's to grab the attention. So that's a general challenge for
Yeah, for
everybody because
everybody, right? Yeah.
email channel is so crowded, and but it's still better than anything on Facebook because you can only deliver your message if you pay for Facebook ads. So compared to that, email is way better, but you definitely need to start with a catchy enough subject line. So that's a no-brainer, and that's not something that we would be able to do for the customers that we work with. So what I would advise is to do strong A/B testing on the subject line with the fraction of the list that you have, because the subject line can easily make or break the email and the successfulness of an email message. If they don't open it, it doesn't really matter how it looks like or how cool or how interesting or capturing, captivating story you have in the email. So I think the biggest challenge is definitely the subject line. Uh, if we want move from, I usually have an approach to move from the inbox view into the email. So the subject line is pretty much the first challenge. After that, what I see is getting more and more important is actually, especially for nonprofits, is an email that's readable, understandable. So I'm not just saying that um, I'm not talking about the content itself. I'm talking about how how readable it is from a visual perspective. Are the letters big enough? Is the contrast big enough between the text color and the background color? So these are certain things that nonprofits need to make sure, and pretty much every business who wants who wants their subscribers to actually read the email. And I see that it's a general problem that many emails are just not enjoyable. So you don't want to read it because somehow the text is too close. There isn't enough white space between the paragraphs. So as you would, if you visit a site, a blog or any news site, that's that's their bread and butter to figure out, how the text should look like. So I think it's really important to make the actual text readable. And the third thing, if I don't talk about the design, because maybe apart from the fact that the emails need to be on brand, I mean with so the emails need to stick with the nonprofit's brand identity. It's important because without that, it's hard to identify who was the actual sender. So I think it's really important for nonprofits too to have a solid brand identity and stick with a certain style for their emails. But if I don't talk about the design, the other big challenge, and maybe nowadays an even bigger challenge, is the personalization and segmentation. I'm not sure how easy it is for nonprofits, or how possible it is, because these practices are being used mostly by e-commerce companies, or those types of businesses who sell various products, uh, no matter if seasonal or not. So you just need to figure out when to send a message to somebody, and the and what to what to send. I'm not sure how well it aligns with the nonprofit industry. So if you are a charity and you're collecting funds for something, maybe you can take advantage of this if you segment your list of previous people who donated to similar causes, let's say, then
Or similar donations. So
similar
like, yeah,
donations. Yeah.
like I had a podcast once where the speaker was talking about how, someone who donates $25,000, shouldn't be getting, the weekly email that you send out to the masses, that they should have something a little bit more specific. Of course, they're going to be getting personal attention or whatever, depending on if 25,000 is a lot. Um, but, but yes, like that's one area of segmentation that I know is something that, you got to be careful with.
Yeah, exactly. So if you can at least categorize people based on their donations, that's one sort of segmentation. Definitely, as you pointed out, maybe there are others. So you know, you could categorize also by gender. It depends what sort of topics resonate with men or women. I guess there might be slight differences, or at least how you talk to them in the email itself. So these type of segmentation and personalization are really important, and that's that's pretty challenging, I have to say, to to figure out your segments and write or create different messages according to those segments. But that's how I see that nonprofits can pretty much maximize the successfulness of their email campaigns. Apart from the design aspect, where we we have the most with our tool set.
Yeah, let's take I love cases. I love talking about real life scenarios. I think that real life experiences make a huge difference than talking broadly. So let's take one of your nonprofits. Let's take a smaller one that you've been working with or that you've worked with in the past. Tell me why they came to you first.
Their their challenge was that they they are an equestrian foundation. I think
Yeah, a
if I
horse.
yeah
Yeah.
horse related foundation, and they have many different locations. So their challenge was to manage the content for the different communities they take care of. So these all these different communities have different topics, pretty localized. So they had to take care of a bunch of different locations. I would say roughly like 30 plus
Wow.
locations. Or
Wow.
those are 30 different emails in this case, uh, maintained by different people in the organization, but the actual look and feel is pretty centralized. So they stick with the same brand identity. They pretty much reuse the same from an email perspective. They use the same header, footer, colors, style for their messages. So what we help them to, is pretty much to build up their email design system in the tool that we provide and enable the less technical people to actually create emails without needing to rely on anybody with a technical background, developer or designer. So this is we help them to centralize this whole process
Now,
into
did
the
you
software.
do A/B testing with them or no?
This is something that they do definitely. So they can easily create different variations from the emails that they build with the software. But we as a provider, we don't deal with the sending part. So we help them create the emails as fast as possible in a streamlined manner with built-in collaboration, real-time collaboration. That's really useful because you know 3 or 5 people can connect in a Zoom call and finalize an email fast. Is even especially if you are in different locations as they are. So that's yeah.
So let me understand. So are you produce? Does your company produce a software product that helps them create the design, or is your team actually doing the design work?
It's the software that we produce primarily, but we do help customers on request to build up their email design system in the tool. And then we pretty much, what we make money on is a subscription model. So you pay a monthly subscription for the software itself. And we do offer this as an extra service And for nonprofits, we have built in a 25% discount. Uh, it's it's pretty
Now,
standard.
right. So then, like, if someone's using Constant Contact or they're using, I use something called Campaigner, which is a little less known. They of course have their own editing and capability of design inside of it. How is yours different than theirs?
Yeah, you just mentioned Campaigner, so I had a call with a customer like 2 days ago. They use
Oh, that's
Campaigner and they
unusual. I thought
use
they
it.
were small, but okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I don't hear it too often, but the way we differentiate is the fact that you can use it as a collaboration tool. So if you use Campaigner or something else, you have a pretty limited design capability, and you cannot really interact with anybody on the actual emails. So, and in case of many ESPs, you cannot create everything that you want in their tool. So you are limited to certain set of templates or layouts. While in case you rely on something like Chameleon, you can be flexible from a design perspective. And what's more important is if you manage, uh, let's say, multiple newsletters, or you have a team of 3 to 5 people already working together, that's when you would be looking for something like Chameleon. If it's one person dealing with emails, then maybe they won't become our customer. So that's the long story short. So
Yeah, yeah.
it's a collaboration and email creation platform for those who either at the stage where they feel that their existing solution is not efficient enough. So the buzzword is efficiency. That's what I hear from customers. They are looking for a more efficient way to create emails at the scale. That's
When
when they
when
turn to us.
when you're in the design phase of creating your email, how important is it from a design perspective to eliminate some keywords or some other elements that will reduce the amount of chances that your email will go to spam? Is the design phase important for that?
I think not necessarily. So the design. So at least my approach is to write down the content at first. So have a content wireframe before I would design anything, or I would uh, tell a client to work on the design. I pretty much ask them what's the goal of the email, what's the expected content. So I have a content first approach, because maybe because I'm not a designer, I'm a marketer myself. But the content is really important before the design stage, and of course it will be important after what you add to your email. So if there are too many free and similar or spammy words that spam filters can mark as harmful, then you might have issues. I think there are various lists online that you can find with these actual words. The design phase is important in a way that if you so at least how we see it, you need to build up your identity. And it's in case of email, it's usually pretty related to the website itself. So if you have a strong website presence and a strong online presence with a nice looking site, then pretty much what you would do is replicate it in your emails as much as you can, and then stick with certain standards when it comes to the color usage, the text styling, whatnot. So I think the design is important as a first step. It just helps you to make sure that all your messages will belong to yourself, and those won't be mixed up with any other nonprofits that would send, I would say, maybe pretty similar text heavy emails. There are only slight differences when it comes to the brand in the header and the footer, but apart from that, those people who donate to nonprofits, most likely they are members in various organizations, or they are on various lists.
Um, Now you're in Hungary,
Yeah.
and I know you have clients all over the world. Um, what do you think the advantages you've heard are of, let's say people come to you and they want you to do design instead of just use your software. Okay. What do you think the advantages are of someone from the US coming to you versus using a designer in the United States?
The the actual challenge is not necessarily the design phase. The challenge is to create and update these emails from time to time. So, a nonprofit can go to a designer, ask for a template um, in an HTML format, but then they will be challenged to update that template from time to time in the code itself. So that's the problem. What I see with only ordering a template and reusing it endless amount of times. If you use if you use the built-in editor in your email marketing software, at least then you can update the emails, but the design will be pretty limited. So we see that many of the customers they have an in-house designer who actually builds the email in the software that we provide, and then the marketers can take over the the heavy lifting, and they can pretty much do slight changes, or they can update things in the email that they want to, and especially things that they are allowed to, because you can define what can be changed and what not, especially from a branding perspective. And this is the kind of flexibility that bigger teams require, who don't want to work with an agency, or they don't have designers, developers in house in a big number, I would say, because it can be pretty time consuming to go through a traditional workflow of mm, coming up with the email, then giving it to the designer, to the developer. Maybe there will be changes at this stage. Then it goes again. This loop can repeat endless amount of times, and then maybe even you need to get approval from legal uh, for your message that you're sending. And this whole process can be centralized into Chameleon, and that's what is important for some of the, I would say, a bit bigger non-profits, not necessarily the small ones. So we see that these teams typically have over 50 or 100 people, employees involved.
Yeah, I mean, we do a lot of work. I have a lot of contractors that work for me outside the United States, and unless I'll be quite blunt, I find that they're just a lot cheaper, and
Yeah.
it's just really amazing, and their work is really good. And so it's been great. It's been great to work with people from all different parts of the world, and I do it at a fraction of the cost. Let's just
Yeah,
call it what it is. Yeah.
yeah, especially, yeah, of course, what we provide is way cheaper compared to even working with a designer on a regular basis. So using a software where your actual team can take care of most of the stuff, and maybe in some cases, if you need something really unique, or you don't have anybody in house who would be able to do image editing in Photoshop, that's when you would still need a designer. But for basic things, you don't necessarily need one. It's enough if you have a creative person uh, who who will create at least something nice. And so there are many people, especially among those who are rather marketers. Marketers seem to be pretty good from a design perspective. I don't say that everybody. So I I see some emails which have uh, big highlights, too much bold text. So at the end of the day, those look ugly, at least for most people. But I think it's it's so much easier if you have the power in house to experiment with the design and also with the content, rather than trying to rely on a third party.
Where do you think email marketing, email design is heading? It's it's been around for a long time. What are you seeing the trends to be like for effective email marketing?
Yeah, it's. I think I just prepared the presentation for myself at this current stage. I'm not sure where I'm going to present it, but it's about the future of email as a marketing and communication channel. And I think there will be a lot of changes in the upcoming years to how people expect to use emails. And it's mostly because there's a new generation growing up. So I they are called Generation Alpha, if you ever heard that about that this
Hmm.
terminology. So those are youngsters who were born between 2011 and 2014. So that's pretty much the end date for Generation Alpha, and they use the internet very differently from the way we use it. They are pretty much the TikTok generation. So maybe if when they will be adults, they will have different expectations for using email. And what we see is that the actual emails and all sorts of communication methods just are becoming more visual. So they don't really read, or not as much as we do. So I think maybe uh, let's say in 10 years time, emails and everything else will turn into a more audio and video heavy communication method, and the email, the way we use it, will still stay in place for B2B communication and all sorts of different communication methods, but not really personal one. So I think I haven't sent an email to any of my friends for a long time because we use something else. So for these types of messages, email pretty much won't be used. But for other types, there's still a way to use it, combined with some new technologies, and especially the direction is to have more visual and more interactive emails where you don't necessarily need to read out every line. You would expect the content to be really personalized to yourself with the usage of big data and all this information that companies collect about you online will eventually make also email a really personalized experience for everybody. So that's pretty much the trend that I see. I'm not sure how
Yeah.
it can be translated to today's terms. Maybe only if we say that what we already discussed, the segmentation and personalization. I just think that um, much of so a big part of this work will be done automatically by AIs. So that's I'm it's a trend that's already here. So artificial intelligence is being used pretty much everywhere. I'm just looking up my slides because I think it's a really interesting topic, the future. But it's not really connected strongly with email. So it's a more general thing that AI is transforming our lives already. So just to give you an example, uh, there are the self-driving cars. Uh, some of the those organizations, like for example McKinsey, says that by 2030, 800 million jobs could be lost worldwide due to automation. So there are certain things, if we try to look into the future, let's say 10 years from now, and we are not just concerned by today, by uh, a recession, inflation pretty much everywhere, then it's that will be a really interesting future, but I cannot yet predict how that will look like. I'm just pretty sure that AI will have a big influence on
Well, it
everything.
does make sense. I mean, it would be nice if like your software Chameleon could automatically put together a design for people to choose,
Yeah,
right? That would
yeah,
be, great. You know, I mean, I think, it's obvious some of these aren't bleeding trends. Some of them are, trends. I know I always look for a video versus having to read.
yeah.
So, giving me the option, I'd rather click on the button and watch video than anything else. My number one go to search engine. Well, I wouldn't say I probably go there the most, but I would say is YouTube. Right, I go to YouTube the most over Google, and because I'm a visual learner, and so I think that makes a lot of sense. I know, one of the things that it's when you're a smaller nonprofit and you don't have uh, a if you don't have, I would just say like I updated my template for sending out the podcasts to our listeners, right? So we email it out too, and you know I was never I hated the way our existing email looked like. It didn't look professional, and so I had a designer redid it, and I'm happy with it now. But sometimes it's just a matter of feeling good about your company, that you have a message that looks good. Maybe it matches the design of your website too, and it's cohesive. It all blends together. And I that's just from my own experience of having does I look back at it now and I say, does my email that I sent out about the podcast match? Well, I have a new website coming out, so does it match it? No. Is it probably ready for an update? It's only a year old. The template for the email that goes out for the podcast, probably probably I need to update it, but I'm just happy that it looks clean now. So there's always something better that you can do with design, and unless you have somebody who's dedicated full time to that, it doesn't always get done. It sits there and sits there until you're kind of fed up with it and you're like, okay, let's redo it. That same thing with your
Yes,
website. It's such, especially your website, it's such a major project to redo your website.
yes, it
Uh,
is.
it's so, it's such a big, depending on how big your website is.
Yeah,
So, I
yeah. I
mean, I
guess
know,
for smaller non-profits, my advice would be is it's quite similar to what I advise to bigger ones. So just have a certain brand identity and stick with it on all your
yeah,
communication channels. You don't update the brand identity too often, but it's important to stick with it. And if it's only a single email template, in your case, you're lucky. If you have more people, and that's when challenges come. So if it's only yourself managing the emails, I think it's absolutely good enough if you have good looking email template that's convenient enough for you to update on a regular basis. It works in your email marketing software as you would expect it, then you're good to go. But it's important to have a good set, a base set. That's what we
yeah.
call a design system, email design system
And I
nowadays.
get what you're talking about too, because when we redesign our website's quite robust. So, so when we went to redesign our website, I told our designers, you know, what we've experienced is like every 7 years we update our website, and that's a problem from a not just a branding standpoint, but the main thing was SEO.
Yes.
And so because Google wants to see, and I'll use the simple terms, an updated website more often with newer tools. And so I said to the designer, I said, or designers, I said, I want you to make it so that it's easier for me in the future to make the front end design changes on the website, not from an individual standpoint, so that when we want to go with a whole new website, this isn't so bad. So that I can go, so that way I can update the website to a new look, so to speak, in 3 to 4 years instead of 7.
Yeah.
Because tools get old in the website, and the template gets old, and then I feel like Google starts to less rank us. So I'm sure that the same thing kind of happens with email marketing too, where you kind of want to give your website, your email a fresh design so that your readers, so to speak, um, get excited. They don't see the same thing over and over and over again. It's something that's fresh and new and looks professional.
Yeah, email is, I would say, it's usually hand in hand with the website. So I see that it gets outdated similarly. It's easier to update an email to
Yeah.
look and feel than a whole website, I have to admit, especially if you have the right tool set. So it's easy in our software. So if you can log in, you can change your, let's say, master template, adjust it in a visual manner. It's harder with a website. It depends on your CMS, but we ourselves, we are also challenged with website updates, and I think we do it pretty much every 2 years, I
Uh,
would say. But
yeah.
we have to, because we are a software provider.
Yeah.
But for others, I can resonate with this challenge. But
Yeah. So let's just circle back to Chameleon. So what I hear you saying is a couple things. One is, if you're doing multiple, if you have a number of people involved in the approval process, and you have certain restrictions about branding, then Chameleon would be a good product for that, right?
yes, exactly.
Second thing I'm hearing you saying is Chameleon will get a designer more capabilities than Constant Contact or others wouldn't.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah. What else do you think Chameleon does that makes it unique?
For So you mentioned the approval, the design flexibility. For many of our customers, it's important how the emails render. So we pretty much have your back from a rendering perspective. Your emails won't break in an email client. There are some sophistications to this, which might or might not make sense for some, but for example, we support background images in Outlooks. So we make sure that even the backgrounds will work in Outlooks, and we do it automatically. This is useful for, especially if you use backgrounds. If you don't, then it doesn't really matter for you. But it's something that agencies typically love, because adding Outlook friendly backgrounds manually to the code, that's a really painful process. So there are certain nuances to the actual HTML quality that the software produces, and it's important to mention, because you will never need to touch the HTML. So you can do everything in a visual manner. Even the personalization tags can be added in the editor in a visual way, as opposed to going into the HTML and adding crazy little snippets to the code where they need to be. So it's an extra layer of convenience for these teams, and this convenience comes with increased efficiency. So if you have a, I'm not necessarily say that broken process, but if you struggle to create a new email campaign or email template and you spend a week or two with it, then you should be looking for something like Chameleon, which provides you with a visual email creation tool where you can do the same project in a matter of hours. If we add approvals, then I would say a day or two, because we cannot really rush the approval in your
Yeah.
team.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
we try to.
Yeah. Well, it's good stuff. It's really, kind of all the time we have today. I'd like to thank so very much Roland Pokornik from chameleon.io for coming on today's podcast. If you like today's podcast, please feel free to share it with a friend and also subscribe on your favorite podcasting app. And if you like today's podcast, please give us a review on your podcasting apps to help us get the word out. It's the way that the algorithms work. The Nonprofit MBA podcast is one of the more popular podcasts for nonprofits. We've been doing it for over 4 years. We have over 120 episodes. Our guests, like Roland today, are excellent. And so please give us a review. If you are looking for a line of credit for your nonprofit, feel free to visit our website at nonprofitmbapodcast.com, where you can get a free quote. And also, you can call us at 862-207-4118. Roland, if anyone wants to get in touch with you or your company, how do they go about doing that?
The best is via our site. I'm also available via email. So it's roland@chameleon.io. And we're going to have a special offer soon, which is available for pretty much any nonprofit too. It will be available on chameleon.io/free-email-design-system. So free email design system with hyphens. And as part of that, we pretty much build up the design system for any business. In a given month, there will be 5 businesses that we select, and we build up their email design system free of charge in the software, and then give them a free subscription for a few months to enjoy and figure out how more efficient their process can be using the right tool set. So that's something that...
Right. And for those out there who are spelling challenged like me, Chameleon is spelled CHAMAILEON.io. It's interesting how Chameleon has male in it. I just never noticed it.
We wanted to make it funky, but it's a spelling challenge. And
Yeah.
Instead of the regular one, just add email into the center, and there you go.
Yeah. Good.
Without the E. And
Cool. Very
thanks,
Yeah, very
Stephen, for
good.
having me. I hope there were some useful pieces for your audience.
I'm sure there will be. So for those, all our listeners out there, I know that every single one of you, every single day, are making the world a better place. You put your passion into your organization, I know. And I want to thank you for doing that. We all need to do our part. I know that Roland and I need to do our part too. And we all need to be kinder to each other and really pay attention to what's going on with people who are less fortunate and for all different causes. So I just want to say thank you to you for, making the world a better place. But also don't forget, you're only as good for your organization as you are for taking care of yourself. So make sure you do take good care of yourself as well. So everybody, have a fantastic day. Get out there, enjoy the beautiful weather, smell the roses, and take good care of yourself and others too.